Another Rangers starting pitcher sustained an injury. What does it mean for the Rangers rotation? Plus, how good is Nathaniel Lowe? Is his breakout to be trusted or not? All that and more on this episode of Locked On Rangers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On to the Texas Rangers. I'm Bryce Patrick, a cripplingly addicted Texas Rangers fan since 2010, the founder and host for all 4 seasons of this Locked On Rangers podcast. Thank you all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. If you're not already, you can follow me on Twitter at Bryce Patrick. You can follow the show at Locked On Rangers. You can like us on Facebook, subscribe on YouTube, where the best way you can help us grow the show is to comment any single thing below. Now, before we get into today's episode, this episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn today to get started. Now, today, on Friday, unfortunately, we got some bad news. Jon Gray was scratched from his second spring training start with back tightness. Wasn't scratched for the first one. Everything went fine there. He looked healthy, and everything seemed okay, but he had back tightness. It was released today, just a few hours before the start. So that makes 4 of the Rangers' top 6 starters who have had some kind of injury setback during spring training. And, well, my advice is just kind of get used to it, because that's unfortunately, I think this is going to be kind of a theme of this season. Obviously, the Rangers have a lot of very talented starting pitchers this season, but there are a lot of guys who have some injury problems, a lot of injury history, and pitchers kind of get injured in general. That's just kind of what they do. Thankfully, Martin Perez and Andrew Heaney have been all good so far this spring. Everything has looked fine. Heaney gave up a couple home runs in his first start of the spring and gave up a couple walks, but said he felt fine physically, and that's really what it's all about. But these other guys, it seems to be minor injuries. I mean, Eovaldi is missing his start. deGrom is still working his way back. I'm not sure when he is going to make his first start of the spring, but Bochy said that he is on pace to be ready for opening day, so I'm not really all that worried about it. It's just kind of the nature of the beast at this point. Same with Eovaldi. Obviously, I have some concerns with all these guys in their injury history, Jon Gray included, because he missed so much time last year with 3 different injuries. He had the blister injury in his first start that caused him to go on the IL. Then he came back and immediately had the knee injury that caused him to go back on the IL. And then he was mostly healthy until August, when he had that, right or left side, I'm not sure which side, but an oblique injury that kept him out for basically 6 weeks. Maybe it was a little bit more than that, but it was most of August and most of September as well, and the Rangers really, really floundered without him, and it was just Martin Perez and friends. And that's just kind of the way it goes. I mean, Eovaldi has a long, extensive injury history. So does Heaney. deGrom has a more recent injury history that is very concerning, obviously, and sent a lot of people into a panic. But that's just kind of the way it goes. That's just kind of the way spring training goes. Thankfully, deGrom is on his way back and seems to be fine. Eovaldi's thing seems to be minor. I'm not quite sure about this Jon Gray thing just yet. And, well, I mean, Jake Odorizzi, he has some arm fatigue, but he's the Rangers' 6th starter, so it's not like by any means a huge red flag or something that I'm super duper concerned about. But this is the way spring training goes. I feel like people are forgetting that. That's just kind of what happens in spring training. Guys have little setbacks and things end up being fine, or they're not. I mean, there are plenty of other players in spring training already for other teams in many years past and in this year that have already undergone significant injuries and are going to have their seasons in jeopardy of being missed, and none of these are that, at least at this point. I mean, I don't know much of anything about Jon Gray's injury, but the rest of them seem like these are all minor issues that will eventually be sorted out. So just keep your head on tight. I know it's hard getting back into the swing of things, remembering what's worthy of freaking out and what's not worthy of freaking out, and not to tell you how to live your life and what to freak out or not freak out about. I'll just let you know what I'm freaking out about and not freaking out about that, and you can make your own decisions. You're all adults, or maybe you're not. Maybe you're a child. I don't know. But you can make your own decisions on what you're going to freak out about. I'm not freaking out about any of these, just kind of remembering, oh yeah, this is what spring is. It's kind of annoying. We like to see these guys a little bit more, but really the entire goal is just to be healthy and ready for the opening of the season. I think these guys will be that. So if the Rangers can go in and not have any serious injuries, but by the time they get to opening day, I feel great about that. I feel really, really great about that. There were a few things that I wanted to touch on from the game yesterday. I know there's not always the most important things from spring training games, but there were a couple things that I thought were worthy of mentioning. Cole Winn had his first outing of the spring and did battle a little bit with command, but struck out 3 in a scoreless inning of work, allowed a hit and a walk. 3 strikeouts. That is a very, very good thing for Cole Winn. Had a very rough year last year with those command problems. Seeing him iron that out a little bit and get some strikeouts was fantastic. For yesterday, very excited to see what he can do this year. I have no idea what he worked on this winter, or I guess how he worked on it, I should say. Obviously, he had issues with commanding all of his pitches and had a little bit of just really bad command issues that he hadn't had the season before in 2021 when he looked absolutely outstanding, made it all the way to AAA as a 20 or 21 year old. He was pretty young. I think he might be 23 this year, but he is still fairly young, hasn't made his big league debut. We'll see if he does this year. I'm thinking if he can get some of those things ironed out that he was struggling with last year, then we could see him in the big leagues this year if there is a significant injury to one or more of these starting pitchers, which I would not like, but I would enjoy seeing Cole Winn at the big league level at some point this year. We'll see if he gets there, but that was something that really caught my eye. Also, Evan Carter went 1-for-1 in yesterday's game. He's hitting .429 in the spring. He's not going to make a big league roster out of camp. He's just not, and that's okay. But he is fantastic, and seeing him in big league camp and hitting against big leaguers as a 20-year-old, just turned 20 in I believe August of last year, and seeing him hold his own at that level is just. I know it's spring and pitchers aren't working to get guys out there, working to throw their pitches to get them ready to get guys out in the regular season. But seeing him have success there as a 20-year-old against big leaguers is really, really exciting, and he might see the big leagues before he turns 21 in August. That's a real possibility. But just encouraging stuff from him there. Also, Dane Dunning, 5 strikeouts in his 3 innings of work with no walks. That was nice. He did allow a leadoff home run to Christian Yelich, which, again, happens to the best of them, but something that is definitely, I thought, worthy of mentioning. And one last thing from the game yesterday, Lucas Jacobson, who is a big, tall lefty who touches 97, has a true splitter. Tepid participation on Twitter was telling me about that. He talked about it on their the Rangers on Deck podcast. That is a pretty good podcast about Rangers minor leaguers. They talked about that like months and months and months ago, and for some reason it stuck in my head. Then I saw him there, and I was like, oh, interesting. So he's a guy I think I would keep an eye on. He touches 97. He's very tall. He's got a true splitter, which is a difficult pitch to throw, and is very, very effective. You can use it well, and he can use it well. He also pitched a shutout inning with a pair of strikeouts in Thursday's game. So definitely one to keep your eye on in terms of Rangers pitching prospects in the bullpen. Don't know if he'd see the big leagues this year, but it's definitely a possibility. Coming up, we're going to get into Nathaniel Lowe's breakout season, what went into it, how much it can be trusted, and how good he is in terms of where he compares to the rest of first basemen in all of Major League Baseball. But first, this episode is brought to you by Built Bar. If you're looking for a delicious treat, but you don't want all the fat and calories, then you have got to try yourself a Built Bar. As I'm doing this ad read, I am getting incredibly hungry for some Built Bars. As soon as I publish this episode, I'm probably going to go order myself a box of some at Built.com, or maybe I should just go head over to my local Walmart or Sam's Club. They've got boxes there, so you don't have to wait. Like it might be just too much for me to wait on those Built Bars to get here after ordering them online. And if I want to go pick some up now, then you can go get them there. They got all kinds of great different flavors. They're a protein bar that tastes like a candy bar. They're absolutely delicious. I don't know how they do it. They are some food magicians, the way that they make these things healthy, and it tastes absolutely amazing. So go pick them up however you want at your local Walmart, Sam's Club, or online at Built.com. Grab yourself a box and try yourself some Built Bars. You'll thank me later. Nathaniel Lowe last year was by far, I'd say, the best offensive story for the Rangers. By far. Jonah Heim had a nice first half of the season. Adolis Garcia proving that he was was who he thought he was, and the same level caliber of player that he was when he was an All-Star in 2021 was great. But Nathaniel Lowe went from, he's fine, it's pretty good hitter, to this is one of the best hitters in all of freaking baseball. He was absolutely incredible last year, won a Silver Slugger at first base. Remember the position that is all about hitting real good? He hit so good that he hit better than Vladimir Guerrero Jr. He had better offensive season than any other American League first baseman last year. Absolutely fantastic. And it was no mirage. It was mostly came in the second half of last year, more so than the first half. He was still pretty fine, hit over 300, had over 25 home runs, and had, I don't think he hit the 100 RBI mark. No, he did not. Over 75. I remember Tim Kalishaw a couple of days ago wrote a column about guys who had done that, of over 25 home runs, over 75 RBI, and hit over 300. There are only two other ones in all of Major League Baseball who did that last year. Granted, they did a little bit more than just the bare minimums of those categories. It was Yordan Alvarez and Aaron Judge. That is a legitimate statistical category that Nathaniel Lowe is in the same breath as those guys. He's not the same hitter as those guys. He's not. He's not going to hit 62 home runs, I don't think. I don't think he's going to hit have an on base of like 450 or whatever that Aaron Judge had last year. Probably not. He might, but probably not. But he is legitimately fantastic, and I have been eating a lot of crow for my initial reaction to the Nathaniel Lowe trade all those many years ago, of saying, I don't get it. The Rangers have plenty of first basemen. Ronald Guzman will be fine. Why do they need him? They've got plenty of other guys that can play first base. They don't need to trade these young minor leaguers for Nathaniel Lowe. But you're not going to out-scout the Rays, but you know what? They did. They out-scouted the Rays on their own player. They said, no, this Nathaniel Lowe guy is really good. Why are you guys not playing him every day? You guys think he can't hit lefties? That's so dumb. We think he can hit lefties. We'll give you some of these, prospects, and we'll make him our everyday first baseman, and we will bank on him doing that. We'll also bank on him hitting against fastballs as well. Last year, against lefties, he had a 920 OPS in 100 games, 211 plate appearances. 920. Against righties, he had an 817 OPS. The full season stats were he had 27 home runs, which was a career high, hit 302, on base 358, OPS of 851. The guy was absolutely electric, and a lot of that came in the second half, especially that month of August where he was just one of the best players in all of baseball. In that month of August, in 120 plate appearances, he had 7 home runs, hit 389, on base of 450, and slugged 648. An OPS of nearly 1,100, literally 2 points shy of 1,100. He was absolutely incredible. That was that streak of a bunch of games that included some at Coors Field when he was just on an absolute heater. He hit some of the biggest home runs that any Ranger hit this season when he absolutely gets into one. And that was one of the things that he did this year much better than he did last year. He has always had very, very nice raw power. With the Rangers, I think he is the biggest offensive success story and the biggest success story for the two hitting coaches that the Rangers hired last year. They got Donnie Ecker to be the bench coach / offensive coordinator from the Giants after making the Giants look like absolute juggernauts and the best offensive team in baseball in 2021. They were fantastic, and he turned around a lot of veterans who hadn't had good seasons in many, many moons and had them having career years. The Rangers are like, we got to have that guy. He is doing something special there. And I applaud the Rangers. I thought it was a great hire at the time, but I didn't think it'd be this great. I mean, he really, really did some great work. They also hired Tim Hires of the Red Sox. He was their hitting coach, and he is now the Rangers hitting coach. So kind of under Donnie Ecker, he is the offensive coordinator, which is kind of a new title they started last year. They've also got an assistant hitting coach this year, Seth Connor, who I gotta say I don't know anything about, but I'm sure he's fine if he's following the same philosophies and procedures and whatever that the Rangers are doing with Donnie Ecker and Tim Hires. Then the Rangers have done a good job of coaching these guys up. But some of the things that Lowe did well is being a little bit more aggressive. He has always had the very, very high raw power that he didn't tap into nearly enough in games for a guy who's going to be a first baseman. It's you got to provide a lot of offensive value to be an above average or a very good first baseman, and Lowe did that last year. He has a very, very good eye at the plate, but he was a little bit more aggressive. He swung and missed a little bit more. He also put the ball into play, and he also pulled the ball a little bit more than he did in years past, and it really, really did absolute wonders for him. I mean, just a fantastic season, and I don't think that it is a mirage by any means. One of the stats that really stood out to me when I was looking at all of his many different split stats is what he did when it came to the first pitch. So on plate appearances where he swung at the first pitch, there's 266 of those last year. He had a 966 OPS. 966. That is not saying on all first pitches, but just in any plate appearance where he swung at the first pitch, whatever it was, swing and miss, home run, whatever, he had a 966 OPS. If he took the first pitch, that was 379 plate appearances, so 113 more. He had a 766 OPS, exactly 200 points lower. So when he was out there and getting aggressive, and even if, I mean, because he had been such a patient hitter in the past, I think that, I don't know if this trend is necessarily going to continue next year. Because he had been such a patient hitter in the past, pitchers like, I can just drop a throwaway gimme pitch right down the middle for the first pitch of the at bat, and he's just going to sit there and take it. And this last year, in years past, he had done that, and last year he's like, nah, I'm gonna absolutely freaking crush it, and that's what he did. And I think that that aggressive mindset really played a big part in him breaking out last year. And I think those changes are here to stay. Coming up, we're going to look at where he compares to former Rangers first baseman, other first basemen in Major League Baseball, and what I'm expecting from him this season. But first, this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The midway point of the NBA season is here, and now is the perfect time to download FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook app. Because new customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's bonus bets back if your first bet does not win. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It is safe, secure, and so easy to use. Then you can bet on everything from money line to point scores to threes drained. I'm sure they have some lines coming up about different individual random Rangers players. Maybe there will be some about Nathaniel Lowe if you think he is going to win the American League Silver Slugger yet again. I think there is some decent odds on that. Probably there will be, or maybe there will be bad odds, and you think, oh, well, I can make some money off this. So head to FanDuel, get your no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Now, Nathaniel Lowe last year, people do not realize how good he was. There's a lot of disrespect for Nathaniel Lowe, and I feel like just general apathy of like, oh, he won the Silver Slugger? Okay, I guess everyone kind of sucked last year. No, it was Nathaniel Lowe was absolutely fantastic. In terms of WAR among Major League Baseball first basemen, last year, according to FanGraphs, he was the 8th best first baseman in all of Major League Baseball. The only American Leaguers that finished ahead of him in WAR were Jose Abreu and Luis Arias, and that was not by, well, Arias was by 0.2 WAR. Jose Abreu was by 0.9 WAR. He is now, unfortunately, with the Astros, which is a huge bummer for everyone involved, who does not like the Astros, which I imagine, as Rangers fan, is probably most of you out there. But I still think that Nathaniel Lowe is the best first baseman in this division. I think a lot of his value is definitely tanked by him being bad defensively. He admitted it. He talked very openly about it, and he says something that he's working quite a bit on. And if he can just be like, the thing that I'm asking for Nathaniel Lowe next year is not to make some huge sweeping changes in improvement, especially offensively. It's just like kind of be who you were, because who you were was really dang good. Obviously, defensively, that would be nice to see him be better there. And I think he will be, because it was so bad defensively, like just really, really bad in terms of outs above average. Not that it's always the most accurate stat, but according to the Baseball Savant, he was in the 2nd percentile of all of Major League Baseball. That's not really where you want to be honest. And I don't think he wants to be there either. I mean, I had heard it described, his defense said it would be better to put a stick with a broomstick with a glove out there at first base than Nathaniel Lowe. And I think that was a little mean and a little inaccurate, but it was not good. And it is offset by obviously him being fantastic offensively. But I think that he is going to be one of the best first basemen in all of baseball. Like, it was just before last year, I was seriously considering, because Matt Olson was obviously being dangled as a trade piece by the Oakland A's because they're like, hey, we're going to be bad and we're going to go trade off all our good players. And I really had to think about, like, should the Rangers make a trade for Matt Olson? I know they already have Nathaniel Lowe. It's like, but that feels like such a huge upgrade. Like, obviously Matt Olson is great defensively and, like, he's better offensively. And, like, it's just going to be, like, a huge upgrade. It might be worth it to give a bunch of prospects. Well, if you're looking at just Fangraphs WAR, Nathaniel Lowe had a 3.0 Fangraphs WAR season last year. And Matt Olson had a 3.1 Fangraphs WAR. 0.1 difference. I was dead wrong. I was dead wrong about Nathaniel Lowe, and I will own up to it because I am very happy to be extremely dead wrong about how freaking good this guy was. And I'm very glad that the Rangers didn't go trade out a bunch of prospects for Matt Olson last year. They already had Matt Olson at home, who, granted, wasn't as good defensively, but offensively was way better, which is absolutely incredible. In terms of the overall offensive contributions, there were only three first basemen in all of baseball who were better than him, according to Fangraphs' metrics. That was Paul Goldschmidt, who won the MVP. That's fine. He had a 7 WAR season. I don't think Nathaniel Lowe is doing that next year. Maybe, but probably not. Freddie Freeman and also Pete Alonso, who had 40 bombs last year. That is a lot of offensive value. But I think that Nathaniel Lowe's entire sustained success for the second half was something that I always thought that, like, before really going back into the numbers and seeing what he did, I kind of thought it was like, okay, it was that month of August was really amazing, and then the rest of it was, like, not that good. He also had a fantastic month of June where he had 7 home runs in that month as well and a 910 OPS. If it wasn't for the month of May, he might have had an OPS of around 900 for the season. Like, that's if he had another really good, like, 850-ish OPS month instead of a 582 OPS month in the month of May, then he might have been an all-star, because his month of June was fantastic, as was his month of August. But, I mean, he was sustained success for the entire second half. If you're looking at the OPS splits, he had a 964 OPS in the second half, 72 games, 274 plate appearances, 15 bombs, an on-base 1 point shy of 400, slugged over 560, batting average of 339 for the entire second half. That was no mirage. It was no small sample size. This guy is a fantastic hitter, and the Rangers absolutely nailed it when they saw him on the Tampa Bay Rays and thought, why are they wasting this guy as a platoon slash DH slash just barely using him at all? He is so incredibly good, and he is also very good as a clutch hitter. Where'd we go? I swear I just had these stats pulled up, but in late and close situations, with 2 outs of runners in scoring position, he had an OPS of 1,077. If games were late and close, he had an 899 OPS. In a tie game, 959 OPS. Like, he was just very good in situations where the Rangers needed him desperately. He also had 7 home runs and 113 plate appearances in those late and close games. So, when the Rangers needed him, he came up big. And as their 3-hole hitter, that is the spot that you usually give to your best offensive player. Maybe it's the number 2 hole. I mean, him and Corey Seager are kind of neck and neck in terms of offensive contributions. And if you had told me that, or at least what I'm expecting from them this year, last year, I do think that Nathaniel Lowe was a more impactful bat for the season than Corey Seager, which is insane to say about the guy you paid, $32.5 million to be your shortstop and your star player. But that's incredible. That is some incredible development from the Rangers. And I think that he is going to continue that success next year. I think that the second half was a sign of, this is who this guy is now. You better get ready, because the Rangers have someone special. So, but the projections from around baseball are not super flattering for him. I mean, according to Baseball Reference's projections, which are just feel absolutely criminal, they have him at just under 600 plate appearances, 20 home runs, hitting 279 on base, 349, and a 793 OPS. 793, like 60 points lower than he was last year. That's insane. He's in his prime. He is getting better. He is 27 this year. He is going to turn 28 in early July of this season. He is in his prime. Why would he regress? he had legitimate sustained success last year. I don't understand why these projections are so negative on him. And it's not just a single out baseball reference, because the FanGraphs projections aren't very good either. They have him having an 802 OPS, 25 home runs, and a 2.9 WAR season, and that's the most generous of those projections. They think that he is going to go back to walking at a much higher rate. Last year he walked at a 7.4% rate. The years before, 12.5, over 11.5, just under 12 with Tampa Bay in 2020. They have him going back to somewhere around the 10% walk rate and just kind of going back to who he was in 2021 and Tampa Bay. That's not how this works. He's not going to get worse. Not going to just, I don't think. It doesn't happen very often where guys have this breakthrough like he did last year, and they go back to doing the things that they sucked at, or that made them not quite as good as they are now. I just don't see that being a realistic possibility for him, and it kind of bothers me that these projection sites are like, yeah, you know what, I saw that. I actually think this guy blows, so yeah, I'm not buying it. And they do the same thing with Adolis Garcia, and they are doing the same thing with Martin Perez, which like I get a little bit more because those guys are a bit older. Like this kind of their breakout season was like when they were older. It's like, okay, I don't know if I can trust that. And like, I get that skepticism, but Nathaniel Lowe, this guy was a top prospect coming up. He had his breakout season last year with the Rangers. He was honestly pretty solid in 2021. Like I wasn't super impressed, but he was solid, above average first baseman in terms of overall capabilities. And then last year he was fantastic. Probably was all-star worthy, won a Silver Slugger, might be an all-star this year. And I think it's about freaking time that the league and these projection systems start paying Nathaniel Lowe his gosh darn respect, because he has earned it. So what I'm hoping for him next year is he plays a career-high 158 games as opposed to 157 that he's played the last two seasons. It's kind of his last two seasons in terms of the amount of time he's played is really kind of scarily similar. He had 642 plate appearances in 157 games in 2021, and exactly 3 more in 2022 in the exact same number of games. But obviously the production was quite a bit different in 2022. And I think it'll be even better in 2023. I'm guessing he'll get probably around 650 plate appearances. There's not that many more to be gained in the 5 games or whatever that he missed in the last couple of years, or mostly just sitting out or just getting random days off. I don't really remember any injuries for him. It's just kind of like, all right, you've been in the lineup quite a bit. Let's give you a day off to get a breather or whatever. So I'm thinking he'll have a slash line. I don't know if he'll hit 300 again. And I think that's fine. And I think that that's like it's a good bar and something that he has said that he cares about. But I don't really care that much about it as long as it's up there. Like it's not the be all and end all. It does still have importance of the batting average, but I think he'll hit around 290 with it on base. I'm hoping that goes up. I think he can get back to walking at a high rate, combining both of those things of like being aggressive while also still being patient. That is a difficult balance to strike, and I think he did a good job of like leaning more back towards the middle, maybe push farther than he should have, of like being more aggressive, but that's what you wanted, and that's what led to all this production. And so if that's where he stays, then I think that's fine. But I would like to see him walk just like a smidge more, get kind of back to the above average walk rate that he had in years past, so a 360 on base, and then slugging somewhere around 530. If he does that, that would be an 890 OPS for the season, and I think he'll hit probably about 34 bombs. I think he'll hit more home runs this year than he did last year. That would be 8 more home runs, which is actually, no. Sorry, he hit 27 home runs. I was looking at doubles. He hit 27 home runs last year. So that'd be 7 more. He hit 9 more home runs in 2022 than he did in 2021. If he hits 9 more again, then he'll hit 36 home runs. And I think that's definitely within the realm of possibilities. I think a back-to-back Silver Slugger appearance is absolutely on the table for this guy. And if he can get just a smidge better defensively, make me less want to throw things at my television when he makes some of these brutal errors defensively. Just be fine. Be not horrible. Be not horrible. Don't even have to be fine. Just be not horrible defensively and continue what you did in the back half of 2022. And this is a certified all-star, one of the best hitters in baseball, and maybe people will start giving him the respect that he deserves. But I don't know. Even if they don't, he's still going to be really freaking good at baseball. That's going to do it for this week's editions of Locked On Rangers. I'll be back on Monday. I think I'm going to do a mailbag, so I will put out the call for Twitter, and also in the YouTube comments. You can just kind of leave them wherever. But thank you all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen. Now for your second listen, go check out Locked On Fantasy Baseball. Win your league by listening to Matt and Dom every day as they bring you the best fantasy draft strategies. Find Locked On Fantasy Baseball wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you all so much for listening and subscribing. And until next time, don't forget to enjoy baseball.